This is a wonderful turnout. I'm not going to say much. I'm going to turn this over to Maija and Mikko, our dear Peacemaker friends from Helsinki. And with that, let's go ahead and get started. And thank you both for coming. I'm so happy to see you, and welcome to everybody once again.
Let us start by listening a song where we play together with Maija. It's called This Is Our Life, and the lyrics are from the last song of the Gate of Sweet Nectar liturgy. Maija composed the lyrics, and she's singing, and I'm playing the drums.
Okay, welcome everyone. This is our presentation and discussion, and it's titled Rebel for Love, Rebel for Life, Art and Peacemaking in Finland. Building a new peacemaking community in a new country. And my name is Maija, Myōsho, Ijäs, and...
My name is Mikko, Rakushin, Ijäs. Our schedule for this evening is following. We will both share a bit about our backgrounds and show some samples of our artistic works and tell about our work as peacemakers here in Finland, in Northeast Europe. We will also leave room for questions and answers at the end. Oh, this bar keeps on changing. Oh, let me move this a bit. But where is Finland? It's about here and about here. So Northern Europe, next to Sweden and Russia. We will also start now by watching a short music video that generally captures our work rather well. This is a song composed and performed by Maija. It is based on a post-war love song lyrics that Maija recomposed into the original Finnish lyrics. However, Maija wanted to record this tune also in English, so she asked me to rewrite English text. While we were recording this, we noticed that this is not just a love song anymore, but an anthem for our planet. Therefore, I decided to make this video based on this idea to inspire the international community of climate and environmental activists everywhere. By the way, I also played drums on this track too.
And don't worry, it's not going to be song after a song. We just start with these two. Okay, I was born in a small town in central Finland, and it's called Jyväskylä in 1974. And my parents were in their late 20s, early 30s, and saanko lisää tekstiä? And a few days before I was born, my father's father died in a construction site accident. And it wasn't an easy labor for my mother too. We barely survived with the emergency C-section when I was born. 5 days later, when my father's father was dead in the accident, and that was quite traumatic for my whole family, of course. And my mother's side of my family, they are all refugees from Karelia. That's the southeastern corner of our country that we lost to Soviet Union after the Second World War. And about 11% of our population was displaced because of the war. So quite many people. People were evacuated with a short notice with no time to pack, and many of them died along the way. My grandparents, for example, lost one baby and one toddler on that trip. My mother was born in 1944 before they settled in Jyväskylä, so soon after the evacuation. And I was then raised as an only child in a quite traumatized family, like all of our people who are born in 70s. There were alcohol problems, burnout, whatever you can imagine. And my personal childhood refuge was, of course, music and poetry and literature. I played piano since I was 4, and I went through the conservatory system with degrees as a pianist. And I also sang in a very, very ambitious children and youth choir that competed all over the world. And we were very disciplined choir singers. We performed such places as Carnegie Hall in New York City and things like that. So you can get the picture. That was very disciplined choir. And then my parents, who are like working class people, they wanted me to be a teacher. They thought that that profession would secure a steady income for me and give a bit higher social status, and of course the long summer holidays. But after graduating from high school, I was denied also the opportunity to apply to Music Academy in Helsinki because my parents thought that being an artist, it's not the proper job. But eventually I did get a university degree from education, but also from music education. In my hometown, we have a university in Jyväskylä too. But when I met Mikko, I was 24, so quite young, I think. And I was still studying, but with Mikko, I also discovered a more radical artistic community he was involved with. And after a year, we already were doing some theater and music and stuff like that together. And 2 years later, when we met, we moved to Turku, which is the former capital of Finland, due to Mikko's studies. And we got married in October 26, 2001. So we are celebrating our 20th anniversary next month. I spent some time as a teacher only to find out that it was definitely not my cup of tea. And I was already then working while we were staying at Turku. I was working also a freelancer, musician and composer in various stage productions in Helsinki. So after 2 years, my time as a school teacher, that was it. The final push for being an artist was the time we spent in New York in 2003, when Mikko was working as an intern in a Polaroid studio in New York City, and I studied there jazz with Frank Karlberg, and that was it. And between the years of 2000 and 2014, I composed here in Finland over 30 stage productions and concerts, performing as a conductor, MD, and as a musician and an actor and a singer. And it was pretty hectic time for 40 years. And then our son Oscar was born in October 2010. And when I became a mother, it changed my perspective totally, and my perspective also as an artist. I kind of realized that I had been so deeply committed to my work. I hadn't noticed that there was much more to life than just the work. And my life as an artist was also deeply social and deeply demanding in that level. And as the years went by, this kind of a vicious cycle of intense work, not enough sleep, alcohol, fast food, it was taking really its toll. And the last straw was the sudden death of my closest musical companion, drummer. And he died. He just dropped dead after one gig on a ferry to Sweden, and that was definitely too much to bear. And I leave it here on the cliffhanger.
I was born at the same town as Maija, but 2 years later in 1978. I was the second son in my family. My father had just received a new job as a jet plane pilot in Nigeria, Africa, and we all moved there when I was 3 months old. Nigeria was fresh off from the civil war, and its effects were still visible everywhere. My father stayed in Africa when my mother decided it would be best for my brother and I to go to school in Finland. It was odd to move back here at the age of 4 to Finland, where everyone looked the same and talked the same. This demand for similarity applied to school too, where I was often bullied due to my appearance and my behavior. I found my own personal refuge from drawing and painting, and I identified strongly with artists such as Vincent van Gogh and Toulouse-Lautrec and Matisse and such. And as a single parent, my mother didn't really have time to take care of my education. I had no access to high school, but luckily my artistic talent got me into the vocational institute to study graphic design. I met Maija when I was just turning 20. And with her support, I was able to apply to Polytechnic in Turku to study photography. And ultimately, I got into the University of Arts and Design in Helsinki to continue my art studies. But these years, they were very active and busy. In 2009, I was invited to Namibia, where these pictures are from, for an art workshop in the Kalahari Desert. I had always been interested in ancient rock art and African cultures, and this trip gave me a new opportunity to deepen these views. Our son Oscar was born in 2010, and it really changed my views as a fatherhood, as I had never really had a father of my own. In 2012, I began to practice Zen meditation at the Helsinki Zen Center. But after a short period, I really felt that this whole ropes at the temple thing wasn't really for me. Instead, I began running, a long distance running. However, something did happen at the Zendo, and nothing never had been quite the same after that. I did continue sitting by myself, but running was my main practice for several years. And running led me into studying running into human evolution. And I realized that humans had evolved into running down antelopes in the African savanna. I was especially touched by research done by South African anthropologist called Louis Liebenberg, who had written about his experience with the last running hunters at the Kalahari. He wrote how he had experienced the transference into the mind of the kudu as they were running down with a group of sun hunters at the Kalahari. And my research of indigenous running cultures and its visual representations in rock art earned me a PhD degree in 2017. And I was invited to continue my work for a few years at Harvard University by Professor Daniel Lieberman. During my doctoral studies, I had a chance to spend some time with some of the last hunter-gatherers at the Kalahari and participate in an ultra-marathon with the Tarahumara people in northern Mexico. And during the course of this process, we also produced a feature film, a documentary film, silent documentary film with Maija, of these peoples in Kalahari and Mexico to raise awareness of the issues of all of these last indigenous cultures, what they seem to face as the Western culture spreads into their lands and climate change and ecological disasters, they transform their habitat. And next we could watch a few-minute clip from this film, which is also now available on YouTube. I could post the link for the whole film into the Hive after the presentation.
Then after this accident, where this man who is standing in the last row with the black shirt on died, that was my closest colleague Zarkus. I soon realized that if I want to stay healthy myself and be present to my family and to my son, I really would have to slow down. And I'd been really interested in voice and sound and human voice, like in general, through my whole life, partly because I'm really sound sensitive person and partly because, of course, of my background in music. And I had just finished my biggest stage production in the Finnish National Theatre, which took me 3 years to complete. And it was a fully composed 3-hour play at the main stage, and I was a conductor. So I really was exhausted. Mother of a 3-year-old son. I realized that the years of intense work and a really demanding social life had come to an end in a way or another. Then in 2015, I came across this very cool and funky and new method called Estee voice method, and it's named after its developer, Dr. Josephine Estee, an American researcher. And the method is a kind of a physiological method of teaching how the voice works and how voice is produced, and it really resonated in me in that time, and of course now too. And I had always been interested in human voice, harmonies, overtones, and this method seemed to give the right answers I was looking for. And this led me into studying this method with the British voice teachers in London and then in America. And during the same time, a friend of mine talked me into the Zen meditation. It wasn't Mikko, it was another friend. And I went to the Helsinki Zen Center, which is the kind of the one that people go here. And the same place where Mikko also had practiced a few years before. And I also began to practice TRI. This is tension and stress release exercises. And all of these things began to open up my initial realization of how mind and how body are really interconnected, but yet possible to exercise separately, like the voice. And the meditation and TRE and the skill studies, they also kind of helped me to unravel the embodied trauma in my family and in my country, and how it was connected to the functions of myself and how human voice is produced in that sense too. And then I began to study Estee voice method and TRE and graduated both of them as a teacher in these methods in 2018.
In the late 2015, I read Bernie Glassman's collaborative book with Jeff Bridges, The Dude and the Zen Master. And I got really excited about the engaged practice offered by the Zen Peacemakers. In the early 2016, I read about Bernie's stroke, and I continued to practice Zen meditation at the Helsinki Zen Center as Maija had formed new relationship with their Sangha, and I really wanted to deepen my practice with some kind of community. And one of the members, called Rabbe Sandström, was interested in producing a documentary film of a peace walk in Sweden in the upcoming summer, and I volunteered to help him with the production. In Sweden, I learned that the walk was actually inspired by the Zen Peacemaker practices. As I got back home, I got my hands on Bernie's book, Bearing Witness, and Claude Thomas's book called At Hell's Gate. I had learned in the early 2000s that my father had trafficked former Soviet arms in the 90s to Western African countries under UN arms embargo, such as Liberia and Sierra Leone. As I had learned, war is so much closer than we usually know, and there's always a need to work for peace, at least within yourself. I contacted the CPI's Rami Efal in July 2016, and Rami connected me with the European peacemakers who invited me to their retreat in Holland with Rosie Joan Halifax in just a few weeks. And there, just by an accident, I met my teacher, Rosie Frank de Walle from Belgium. And Rosie Frank was one of the original members of the Zen Peacemakers Europe. He had participated the first Auschwitz retreat in the 90s. And during the street retreat in 2011 in New York, Frank received transmission from Bernie and became his Dharma successor. And in 2014, he received the final seal of approval from both of his teachers, Bernie and French teacher, who was his root teacher, Genno Paches Roshi. Frank has always been very generous with me. He's provided me with regular online teaching and koan practice. He's also been here in Finland in 3 different occasions and gave me my chukai after our first retreat in 2017 here in Helsinki.
And also 2015, I read John Daidalouris' book, The the Zen of creativity, cultivating your artistic life, and I was really impressed. This was the first time I read someone else describing the creative process and the creative flow and the mental state when the creative process takes place. I found out that there was a place founded by Daido called the Zen Center of New York City, a Fire Lotus temple, and I contacted them immediately. And I got accepted to spend 1 month there in December 2016 as an artist in residence. And I was also looking for a teacher because I wasn't so interested in Helsinki Zen Center style of teaching, this formal rope thing. And their practice was non-engaged meditation practice. And for me, it really felt separated from my life and from the work I was now committed to do. And I traveled to Brooklyn and I started to practice there quite intensively. And my practice there was also writing the new poems and lyrics for my upcoming album. The working title was Songs from the Heart, and which came out 3.5 years later. And the songs that you just heard are from my second solo album, the Pine House songs. And this time I spent in Fire Lotus really transformed my practice. It was really a joy, a pure joy to meet other artists and talk about the creative process in that sense and practice and live together. And I made I made a really good friends there. And it was something else that I have never expected. And I was really ready to go on, but where? I didn't know that because in Finland, we didn't have anything like that.
And as I was wrapping up my doctoral studies at the university, we made a trip together to the US to present our movie in few key places. We began our trip from New York, where we showed the film at the Zen Center of New York, where Maija had just been a resident. And from there, we traveled to Boston, where I was invited to give a talk at the Salem University and at the Harvard University. Here's a picture of me at my colleague, Professor Daniel Lieberman, at his office. And CPI's Rami Efal also invited us to visit Bernie and Eve Marco at Montague. Then we went to Seattle to show the film at the Luna Sandals Factory, which was one of the sponsors of the film. But as we were planning our flights, we realized that it would be much cheaper if we would stop at Los Angeles on our way back to Finland. And I contacted the Zen Center of Los Angeles, the CCLA, and they immediately responded us to give a presentation over there too. They also provided us with the lodgings, and one of the Sangha members drove us around the city for a whole day. We also had a chance to spend some time with the then Abbot Roshi Wendy Ekioko Naka, who was extremely friendly and welcoming.
And then I just asked Roshi Ekioko to be my Zen teacher. And on that first meeting, and since then I have been a regular visitor in ZZLA. It just happened like that. I had my Jukai in April 2018, and there's my family photo with YooWho and Roshi Ekioko, and that's Oscar, our son. And since then I've been studying with her and doing my koans through the Zoom. And I finished my second solo album in ZZLA at the Pine House, which used to be a home for Roshi Ekioko. And I have also held voice workshops there, and I participate the retreats and ZZLA's normal schedule while I'm there. And I'm very grateful to have a teacher. And I'm also really grateful my fellow Sangha members, and they support. One of the members of the Sangha is singing the background voices in my album, Chris, which is really nice.
Here's a happy photo. when I began my relations with Roshi Frank, he told me that he would not give a chukai to a Peacemaker student who hasn't been on a street retreat. He thought it would be a great idea for me to organize it by myself. This was a true plunge for me. I had been an ardent opposer of all kinds of religions, and this process really forced me to face my own prejudices. I phoned and visited all the organizations and projects that are involved with homelessness in Helsinki, and they were really interested in hearing what we were up to. And I was also interested in if and how they could serve our group during the retreat. I also wanted to know if there was anything we could do for them after the retreat. The retreat itself was a very humbling experience, ending with my chukai. After the retreat, few participants were interested in continuing with such practice here in Helsinki. And this led us to planning a bearing witness retreat into the Finnish prison camps that were established after the Finnish Civil War in 1918. And we decided to form a loose dharma community, later called the Peacemakers Finland.
I had to say that the first name was Full Moon Camper.
More about that later. Finland has always been between two superpowers, Sweden and Russia. The population is descended mostly from the hunter-gatherers that came here about 11,000 years ago. We emerge in the historical literature in the early 13th century, when the neighboring superpowers began to rule our big lands with tiny population. Christianity was assimilated into our own indigenous beliefs, but indigenous traditions were still practiced in the late 18th century. As we finally gained our independence from Russia, we fell into a bloody civil war in 1918. The ruling class, known as the White Guard, took down the working class rebellion known as the Red Guard with the help from the German forces, and Finland actually became a kingdom under Germany until Germany lost the First World War, only half a year later. Together with the German forces, Finnish government established the first European concentration camps for the Red Guard prisoners. A total of 12,000 to 14,000 prisoners died in captivity. My mother's grandfather spent 1 year on these camps, two different camps. And during the retreat, we visited 4 different camps on 4 different days. We held this retreat on summer 2018 and 2019. Here's 2 pictures from the retreat. First picture is from first of the camps we visited on an island next to Helsinki. And the second is a military compound next to Helsinki too. And this is a sand field, and there was rifles going on. During the time there was a military training, and there's people buried on these sand lots over there. It's a quite interesting place. Both of these years featured a discussion with the Bosnian former prison camp guard, my friend Esat Lanzo,
Who lives in Finland.
Lives very close by here where we live. His testimony from the viewpoint of traumatized perpetrator was an important part of the retreat. We have also organized a clown workshop with Bernie's clown teacher, Moshe Cohen.
YooWho.
Yeah, Mr. YooWho from San Francisco. That was in May 2019, and an art and scene workshop with Roshi Frank. I have also been involved with the Bearing Witness retreat at Auschwitz, held by the CPI in Poland and I've been there since 2017. I have been a staff member and an official photographer and a clown on the retreat since 2018, and I will be there again this year.
And I've been working as a volunteer in a Salvation Army's day cafe for a couple of years. And then when I released my album, The Pine House Songs, I did it with collaboration with the Helsinki-based No Fixed Adobe. And then I formed a blood donation group that donates blood regularly. And I held concerts in Terhokoti Hospice with my voice clients. So there's a couple of pictures of that.
And a few other members here from Finland have also participated in these projects, and also we've inspired some other dharma communities also to do some of this kind of engaged work here in Helsinki.
And next we are going to watch a short video that's recorded and filmed live in the Finvox studios where I do my recordings. And this song was made to raise awareness and organize fundraising for No-Fix Adobe's important work with homeless here in Finland. Yeah, we have also homeless people in Finland.
But let's watch these videos. We're almost coming to an end of our presentation. And after that, we will have questions and answers too.
On a misty morning in this beautiful town, on a misty morning I'm lying on the ground, and I'm wondering why and how. I'm wondering why and how this all will end. All will end. The sun, the moon, the earth, the stars, the birth, the death will all bend. The sun, the moon, the birth and love, the new morning. On a rainy evening in this crazy, painful town, on a rainy evening I'm sitting on the ground and wondering why and how. I'm wondering why and how this all began. The sun, the moon, the earth, the stars, the birth, the death will all bend. The sun, the moon, the birth and love, the new sun, the moon, the earth, the stars, the birth, the death will all bend. The sun, the moon, love and birth, the new
Peacemakers Finland has tried several different approaches during the past 5 years to gain some kind of foothold here in Finland. We have worked with different organizations and offered meditations online, but also face-to-face at Maija's old studio. We have also been involved with the demonstrations and trainings with the Fridays for Future and Extinction Rebellion here in Finland. And I've also been involved in co-writing a chapter about engaged Buddhism for a book about Buddhism in Finland, actually organized by Johannes Cairns, who was present here. Thanks, Johannes, for trusting me in that. And I've also translated Bernie's book, Bearing Witness, into Finnish, but no publisher yet hasn't shown any interest publishing it, saying that it's too old book. Currently, I'm working on a book titled Unsatisfied Human, which deals with the issues of humankind is facing at the moment, such as artificial intelligence and climate change and different issues around that. We have also planned a new street retreat for September 2022, and it has already have booked. My teacher, Roshi Frank de Waal, will also give me an ordination at the end of the retreat, making me the first priest in the Zen Peacemaker lineage here in Finland. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
The presentation will now end, and we will move back to discussion. I will
Stop
see
sharing.
my magic here at this end to end sharing and see if I can come back to the meeting. Let's see.
But
Here we go.
We can see you. Yeah, good.
Good.
Thank you, Maija. Thank you, Mikko. That was lovely and such great background on the work that you do. We have some time here if and again I can see everyone, so I don't know that we have to use the electronic hand. If you want to make a comment or ask a question, just go ahead and raise your non-AI hand and unmute.
The stage is yours now.
Instead, or if you'd like to sing, that would be all right as well.
No, I think we heard a lot of that tonight.
Oh, it was beautiful, absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
There was something that came up from the presentation.
Johannes.
Johannes,
Johannes, yeah.
please.
So it seems that you've always been quite engaged with various social issues, and that made me think how the Zen Peacemaker tradition has changed your way or thoughts regarding.
I don't know.
I think I got interested in Zen Peacemakers because it seemed like a natural way to go. But I guess my own views towards different religions and how they serve the communities around the world, that has changed quite a bit, because this interfaith work by Bernie, which was really important, I think that made a big impression to me, and that has changed my own views towards different religions, making me a much more tolerant person in that sense.
We're doing a lot of work with one Lutheran church and parish here in Helsinki, because one of the founding members of the Peacemakers Finland is Lutheran priest. So there you go.
Yeah, actually head of a parish.
Yeah, no.
As well. She was on the first retreat and
organized the Moshe's retreat too. The clone retreat.
That's right. And And she was really amazed how wonderful beggar she was.
She didn't know that at all.
Yeah, that actually inspired her because on the last evening of the retreat, it was Friday evening, and we were begging at the central Helsinki, and Frank wanted us to kind of like make a celebrational feast for the Friday evening. And I asked Maija that because she's a priest, she could beg a bottle of red wine for us for the last evening. And she was like, no. And I said, well, if you just go to a liquor store and say that you're a priest, but you have no money, maybe they give you some.
And that really happened.
Yeah, but that didn't happen. But she went next to the liquor store and asked people that if you could buy me a bottle of wine. And eventually she got 2 bottles of wine for the last evening. That was wonderful.
Meillä oli ehtoollinen. Mikä se on?
We had a communion.
Johannes, thank you for your question. Good to see you too. And
Thank you.
Thanks.
anyone else here have a comment or a question? Ivan from Brazil, and then Arthur after Ivan.
Okay, thank you, Maija, Mikko. It's very beautiful way. And I'm from Brazil. And in this time, I think in my bitterness, what I will do, like your music, in the Zen Peacemaker. So I have time in the Zen, the cloud, and the stand-up comedy for the, like you say, trauma and stress. And I really want to know how you work in this, your work with the stress and trauma and song.
Yeah, I've done a lot of therapy like a couple of decades ago, and then this TRE method was really good for me. It kind of gives natural balance back to the body. It's we can send a link. You can Google it online, and you can read about that. And then this voice method, which I'm now studying furthermore and teaching, is really, that was kind of an enlightened experience for me, because it really changed my perspective on how kind of mind and body are separate but still kind of together. And it really helped me to overcome the stage fright and low self-esteem issues regarding to the traumatized childhood, or whatever you can call it, I don't know. But it really helped. I think when you find a method that is suitable for you, like meditation, TRE, whatever, and you really get to know the results pretty soon, and then it kind of makes you continue that the practice, because when you practice you gain something, but without any practice it stays the same. I think that's the beauty of it, why to practice like anything.
Thanks.
So
Maija.
thank you.
Thank you, Ivan.
Thanks.
Thanks for your question, Ivan. Arthur, you waved your hand a little bit ago.
Yeah, thank you. And I really enjoyed the whole presentation. I wasn't really sure what I was going to learn from the presentation, and I feel like I ended up learning a lot of things. Especially, and I felt like the perspective of your guys' biographies were really powerful and moving, and made me just realize how much I don't know about this thing that I thought I knew a lot about, which was World War II. You know, that's like a topic that we all learn about here in United States schools all the time, but I didn't really know the finished part of that history, and it just makes the world feel even larger than it used to. So I'm really joyous about that. Thank you.
Thank you. I need to comment quickly that nobody in Finland does doesn't know anything about the Civil War either, because it's not in the books, you know. It just, you know, it is kind of a thing that Second World War kind of wiped it out from the table, and, you know, left the trauma grow. I never learned about it before we did that bearing witness retreat. Nobody talks about it. Even it's concerning my grandparents.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it goes, you know, and that's why it's so hidden, and that's why I needed to do a lot of work to be able to kind of break the chain and not give that as a present to my son.
Thank you, Arthur.
Thank you.
Anyone else have a...
My fellow song, a dear friend. Woo-hoo.
I just wanted to mention and thank them again for Maija composed a song and sang it at Zen Center of Los Angeles' 50th celebration, and it was really wonderful. And it's always good when they visit us. So I just wanted to say hi. And
hi.
Moshe, I don't want to put you on the spot. I can't imagine that you don't have something to say, or if you'd like to mime a question, that, or if not, it's okay. I just I see you up there smiling.
No, it's wonderful to hear the stories. I didn't know half of it. Oh, look at that! They got their noses already. So, oh yeah. So I'm curious, when do you find opportunities to be the rebels? I mean, I hear about the peacemaking, and that's really wonderful. When do you find opportunities to put on the clown nose, to turn things upside down in your work? And if so, where and how does that manifest?
I think it applies to a relationship, because as people who live together with their spouses, there's always chances to kind of step aside from your own self and turn it upside down. And our son always says that, don't be so serious, please see the humor in this situation. And that really brings us out of our own egos, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we really loved Moshe's workshop here in Helsinki. It was really, really wonderful. And it was also wonderful to have that in a Lutheran church, because it's also brought up very kind of weird situations, because we're having a clown workshop in a Lutheran church, and we were also doing meditation in the mornings, and people got really upset because we were kind of mixing the scene, I guess. And sometimes it's really good for people to be upset and really to kind of reflect on that. And I'm really proud of Maija, who's the parish leader in that church, really to kind of do that. And she receives sometimes a kind of offbeat Christmas gifts, like what was the title of the book that she received?
Mystical Witch.
Yeah. So she's really, really kind of a rebel in this sense,
group.
I guess,
Has she had the opportunity to use her clowning in anything?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and she got a lot of good feedback from the workshop actually later on. Not just complaining about meditation, but really good feedback on.
So we are waiting you to come again.
Oh, I'm in Switzerland now. It's not that far away.
Well, you can swim here.
Oh, you can use an alpine horn to glide here,
Vibrate your way.
Thanks.
I'm glad that had some repercussion. That's great.
Yeah, we will definitely welcome you again.
Yeah, I'm happy to come back up and do something. Maybe next summer.
They tried to convince me that winters are nice in Finland, but I
Yes.
It depends.
We are loading darkness now. Some said that in America they have this Black Friday, but Black Friday in Finland, it starts in October and ends in March. So that's a little bit longer time to shop, you know.
So how short are your nights now?
Pretty short.
Well, the days are kind of short now.
Yeah.
Yeah, but not too short. It's kind of turning now.
Yeah, now it's the turning point is coming.
Ah.
I have a question. If I could, I was going to wait and see if
Please.
Mikko, you and I spoke once before about what we might call social safety net in Finland, and what you told me was very impressive in terms of housing and food, and but then in your presentation you referred to homelessness. Can you say a little bit more about that? I mean, the one time we spoke, I came away thinking there's virtually no homelessness in Finland, and I gather that was a misunderstanding on my part.
Well, the numbers are very small, but it's still a problem.
We have 5.5 million people in Finland, like total.
Yeah.
So the numbers are small in every sense.
Yeah. Helsinki has about 700,000 people living here in the city, but if you combine the neighboring communities, it's roughly around 1 million. And we have about 8,000 people who are officially homeless, but basically they spend their nights with their friends or on couches and things like this. And people become homeless through various instances, like people move to the big city to study and they don't have money for the high rents here and they end up being homeless that way, or people have bankruptcies, divorces, and instances like this. And then there is a group of people who are voluntarily homeless, like traumatized people who have had divorces and don't want any social help from the government or state,
or doesn't want to live in a homeless, how do you call them, buildings?
Yeah,
in the supported housing system.
Yeah, that was especially so after the Second World War, because there was a lack of housing here in Helsinki, and there was a kind of big group of people living in the woods around the city, and these people were kind of violent towards each other too. But still in the late 60s, there were lots of people living in the woods right outside the city. But there still are some individuals who want to live like that, and that's kind of bizarre. But
and of course the immigrants, how nowadays when they come to Finland, they might end up being homeless because they don't have any papers. So.
Yeah, and some Romanian beggars, they live without housing. But the Diakonia Center, they have been doing collaboration with the Romanian beggars, and they have housing from their side. But still, there is a very strong social safety net. So if you're unemployed, you get unemployed checks from the government, and there is subsidies for people with kids, and they cover your rent at some instances if you need to. And there's a very good help service for alcoholics and people with other substance uses and so on. So it's very hard to kind of
fall out
from that net, but still there are some.
Of course it's possible.
Yeah, but you don't really see people sleeping on the streets. That's something that never really happens. It's very, very rare, which is very different from other European cities too.
Or USA, frankly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for that clarification.
Yeah, but I think that really makes the street retreats here very powerful from that perspective, because you don't really see that. It's very bizarre for people to be confronted with people who are begging actively, kind of asking change like we were, and trying to find a place where they sleep in the city,
Or go to toilet.
outside, or go to toilet and so on. People get really kind of
Angry easily.
well, not just angry, but kind of interested. And there was few moments where people were really kind of going to this introspection, I guess, when I was asking money, and they really wanted to know that what was it for. And we openly said that we're a group of international spiritual practitioners who are spending a few days at the streets without any money, and could they help? And many times they helped. Sometimes they said fuck you or something, but it was interesting.
Yeah.
Neem from Dublin, she was here. It would be interesting to hear Neem's perspective as an international participant on the street retreat here in Helsinki. Could you please share a bit?
Sure. I guess it was my first encounter with Zen Peacemakers at all. And you just welcomed me so warmly. I just kind of reached out because I thought it would be an interesting and meaningful thing to do. And yeah, it really was on so many levels. Like it was bearing witness to homelessness, I guess, but such much deeper spiritual practice as well of having nothing but having so much in community with you all, and the freedom of just being moment to moment and responding to the needs as they arose, to find shelter or food or somewhere to sleep together. So I do remember that full moon night on the kindergarten campus.
That was the thing we needed to come back to. Yes.
Yes.
Thanks for reminding that.
Yeah, it was a wonderful, really wonderful experience. Yeah. So thank you for your warm welcome. Yeah, hopefully next time.
Oh,
Yeah.
that would be wonderful. You're very, very welcome.
Thanks, you both. It's great to hear more about you as well.
Thanks.
Thanks, Neem.
This was the full moon was the thing I needed to come back to, because the second night we were spending our night next to the city theater, the security personnel came to us to wake us up, and they were kind of afraid of us because they thought that we might be violent or something, and we were sleeping in our sleeping bags, and they kind of were thinking that whether to wake us up or not, and then they eventually did.
They were very confused.
And they said that we need to move, and they asked that, who are you people? And it was full moon, and we were later on joking with Frank and other people that maybe we should have just said that this is the Society of Full Moon Campers.
Because it was something that they never expected in a quiet night. And then I was laughing so much because I just composed a major state production in that building, and I was in a conductor on the main stage, and there I was sleeping in a sleeping bag under the hood.
And actually the head of the theater was a friend of us, and we phoned the theater director in the middle of the night asking that, could you tell them that it's okay for us to stay here? But she didn't wake up.
Eventually, I didn't have my card, so we could get into the theater, but
We have a little more time. Yeah,
Yeah.
Go ahead. I see you there. I've forgotten your name. I know Alaria's name, but I've forgotten your name.
Yes, Alexander, thanks for having me. I'm taking the time to enjoy very much having the opportunity to be here from time to time. And thank you very much for the presentation. Actually, I had a question that has risen up when I've seen the retreat, and it's connected to what you were talking about now. So my question was, I was wondering if you integrated music and or humor in the street retreat, because these two forces, they are so strong in your action, so in your organization, in the way you present in your presentation, in the slides. So it was very present, those two elements. And I was asking myself if you integrated them in some way in the street retreat.
Well, it wasn't planned anyway. I guess there was music at some points. I don't know.
I don't know.
And I hope that there was humor. I'm not sure.
I think so. There was humor. Yeah,
Yeah.
Neem is laughing.
Maybe Neem can testify. But not. It wasn't planned, at least.
Yeah.
There was nothing like that planned. But we did plan our schedule pretty tightly because different organizations around the city, they serve the people different times of the week. So we needed to have a kind of tight schedule when to be at different locations. And we did also visit some of the memorials, like the memorials of the Jewish people, the 8 Jewish people who were handed out to the Gestapo during the Second World War. We visited their memorial, but also the memorial for the Red God in Helsinki to speak about the Civil War horrors in Helsinki.
Mhm.
And that was kind of interesting because a lot of the participants from Finland, they had stories from the Civil War time, and they shared their part of the events, and that was really.
Yeah. And I
that was
think that's why
interesting.
then the idea of these 2 bearing witness retreats like came
Yeah.
in the street retreat, because it was so close to the topic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I would also, during my presentation, I realized that I didn't really share about the meaningfulness that I felt from the CPI. When I joined the CPI in 2016, there was a European group led by Kathleen Batke who held these council circles each month. And that was really, really important for me when I began the Zen Peacemaker practice, because I really felt that there was an international community and it felt like home. And it was really important to kind of have a steady practice with that group. And I'm really, really happy now when Jeff has been in charge of the CPI to kind of like expand that, to have these conversations with different groups all around the world and have councils regularly and meditations regularly. The offerings are very, very abundant. Thank you, Jeff, for that.
Very generous.
Yeah,
Hey,
and Myōsho and Holden too. Thank you for
Hey,
holding
there's-
up.
Thank you.
Mika.
Yeah.
Mika is raising a hand.
Yeah, Myōsho, I see you have your hand up there.
Yeah, I have 2 questions. You're the leaders for Peacemakers Finland, and as such, what have been the most challenging issues since you began the group? And also, what are your plans, if you have any in the works?
Yeah, I think the most challenging thing is like there's nothing like this here in Finland. Like there's maybe now there's coming a little bit of this engaged Buddhism thing, but people haven't heard about it at all when we first started. And it was really hard to explain because all was the ropes and the bells and things like that. And but when it resonates so much in you, you don't care. You just do your thing. And it has been quite a challenge sometimes. And there's a lot of questions. There were a lot of questions after the street retreat and kind of a hate mail, even for me and the other artists who were engaged with the street retreat, because they thought that we were like just acting to be like homeless, poor people. And they really got furious about that. And it was really hard to explain, because it's really hard to explain that kind of deep experience in any ways, So how to explain a Lutheran country about social engaged Buddhism and a street retreat in a couple of sentences in a Facebook. That's impossible, you know. But you know, when time passed and we're still doing it though, so people kind of get used to it, you know, and those two clowns, you know, I don't know, but it helped to have a little bit of humor about that thing. But and then the begging is really hard in Finland, like asking a mala or begging a street retreat or asking people to pay for meditation or whatever. It's really hard because people are not used to it, because we don't have charity in that sense in Finland because of the governmental thing. So it's like, why do you need money? You know, you don't have any money? No, you know, it's like, why should I give you 100 euros? Because, you know, you go to work. Because there's no tax refund, nothing like in the States in that sense. So it's very different from the thing in US, I think.
Yeah.
I think that these are the challenges, but they, you know, they are quite small in that sense.
Thank you, Maija.
Thanks. Thanks, Mikko.
Johannes, you've got your hand up if you want to unmute.
Yes, I could briefly comment that I'm involved in a research project where a colleague, a scholar of mine, extensively interviewed Buddhist actors in Finland, and based on that data that I have seen, which is yet to be made into an article and published, the Finnish Buddhists don't really have a very engaged stance to Buddhism in general, and also we don't have any mention-worthy history in Finland of such engaged Buddhist practices as hospice and prison chaplaincy that some European countries have, or the US has. So yeah, that's regarding the engagement or lack thereof within the Finnish Buddhist community that Mikko and Maija mentioned.
Yeah, and we're very happy that Johannes is doing the huge chunk of that thing and writing a book of that. That's so important. I hope we get then to publish the translation that Mikko already did on Bernie's book and also Don, mikä se on se Ekodharma?
Yeah, David Loy's
Ekodharma book also. So they are already ready, but nobody wants to do it. They said that it's a really bad business. But let's see.
Actually, one publisher responded to my letter about Ekodharma book, saying that these are the two least money-worthy topics: Buddhism and ecological issues. Yeah, so
we don't take it. Yeah, sorry.
So I'm still kind of holding on to that manuscript and waiting for other times, I guess.
We have a few minutes left. Lorraine, hi, I see your hand. Thanks, Lorraine.
Hi, thank you so much. Wonderful presentation. I am also a dancer and a poet, and I'm very interested in this intersection of art making, messaging, impact about, and art as this language to open a dialogue of what might be possible. And what's interesting is as I've been doing this sort of immersive Zippo, as I call it now, experience is, it's about the possibility of both and. You know, I mean, Bernie decided, Eve spoke with us last week about inserting a Zen sensibility into a neighborhood where there's all of this other stuff going on, and how that kind of impinges on people's expectations of what they think a faith tradition should look like inside the Zendo, right? Or inside the Lutheran church, as you mentioned. And it's this notion that we have a difficult time, certainly in this country, and it's interesting to hear perspectives from others around the world about what it's like to really say, yes, here is Zen, here is this spiritual path, and it can be these other things too. It can be alive in the community, it might not look like sitting on a cushion, but the core tenets of our faith are these. And so to me, that's the sort of interfaith mix of what's possible is very interesting. And as you're helping me understand better, it's not one thing or another. It's both and all the time, right? So it's just a really lovely reflection on that. So thank you so much for offering that inspiration.
Have you read Daidalori's book?
I'm sorry, say again?
Have you read that Daidalori's book, The Zen of Creativity?
No, I haven't. Thank you for mentioning that. I wrote it down. I will
I'll
check that out.
We'll put that in the post.
Yeah, please do. Yeah.
Because that really cracked my brains, you know.
Yeah, it's very interesting because I was a classical ballet dancer for 20 years, you know, and it was lovely, but it was also very removed from world events. In fact, classical ballet hammers home a lot of patriarchal white European dominant stereotypes that I stepped up to and embodied.
Like classical piano.
Hello, exactly. And I embodied that reality. And now I'm thinking, oh my God, what do I do with that creative energy and not perpetuate some of these stereotypes and some of these other things? And what does that look like for everybody else in awakening their own creative voice? So yeah, anyway, thank you.
Thanks, Lorraine.
Thank you.
By the way, Lorraine, Hoden put a link to the book down in the chat.
Thank you.
So
thanks, Hoden.
Yeah, you'll want to click it and save it before we close the Zoom. Yvonne, we've got time for one last short question. If you
yes,
you have one of those.
So I remember when I arrived that I have one question and one interest, and Lorraine remember me, is about Zen, Peacemaker, and creativity. So I think the people now in the oppression, depression, like when talk about how to out to depression to expression. So the three tenets is like this. I don't know. I oppress depression. I embrace my depression. And I look for my expression. So it's not sitting, it's dancing, it's music, it's sound, is light, locked. So when I see your rebels, I think this: how I use the Zen to art, to expression. So I think is the people now is in depression, is oppressed, and the Zen with the three tenets. If we work with the people in this time, they will see your expression at life. What do you think about it?
It's a great idea. And I think what you do, because we know we have been in a peer group together with Ivan. So when you do stand up, I think that's the same.
Yes, when I do when I do the people, the three tenets, sitting, breathing. What's your problem? Embrace your problem, your conflict. What you clown? What you clown your children? React for. Oh yes. So is I don't know what but I will take one step for the depression, for the light, a little light. And the art is, everything is Zen, no? Chanting Zen, dancing Zen, everything go to what Evett said, to my center, my expression. So yeah, I think the music, the everything. Thank you for this insight for me.
Thank you, Ivan.
Thank you, Ivan.
Thanks, Ivan. And we're at the end of our time here. So Mikko and Maija, thank you both so very much for preparing so well and being
Thank you.
generous with your hearts and your experience and your life.